everyone. This is Andrew from Auto Off Topic. The coloring contest is back, and now it's been improved thanks to Frank Eck. The contest is simple. Complete one of the pages in any of three mediums. This includes electronic using any of the paint type programs, colored pencil, marker, and or crayon, with one entry counted per medium per person. So each individual can have a total of 3 entries. There will also be 2 age groups, age 15 and below, and 16 on up. Links to the coloring book pages can be found on our Facebook page or the page for the coloring book contest. Facebook.com/AOTP Contest 2017. Electronic entries, including scanned entries, can be sent to us via email, autoofftopic@gmail.com. Paper copies can be sent by snail mail to Auto Off Topic Podcast, P.O. Box 35, Georgetown, Mass. 01833. Note, all hard copies received will not be returned. Period. The contest runs through November 30th. The companies and owners groups donating prizes are Mitsubishi Motors North America, Adventure Driven Design, Force Performance, Palladian Trucks, Northeast Mitsubishi 4x4, Mitsubishi Montero Owners Group USA, Florida Mitsubishi 4x4, and Mitsu Nation. All right, on to the show.
Be to make up for his time.
No.
Okay.
No.
Now it's recording.
All right. So now, originally, welcome to episode 37, take 2 of Auto Off Topic.
Now that Andrew hit the record button, oh my gosh.
Yes. Hey, we're only 10 minutes in, so it's not too big of a deal.
Yes.
I'm Brad.
And I'm Andrew.
So, like I said, welcome to Auto Off Topic.
And our guest tonight is Brian Driggs. We'll start over. We'll do the little...
Yes.
We were talking about what we were drinking tonight. We had some nice coffee from Beeline Coffee Company that they sent me, the Classic Blend. You can get them at Beeline Coffee, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, BeelineCoffee.com. You can buy it. It's really good. I got the beans. Get to grind them up.
Yep.
We like drink coffee so we can stay awake.
Yeah, and we like supporting the small company that's also a car enthusiast company.
Yes.
So it's kind of a cool combo.
I like their line that was drink coffee, build things, have fun. It's really cool.
It's kind of our life credo. We Beeline Coffee Company, we promised that read was better the first time through it. Andrew didn't hit the record button, but we'll make sure to plug you the next couple of weeks, too, so you can sped through that one. But yeah, Beeline Coffee Company. Look them up online. Buy their stuff. It's delicious coffee. If you like coffee, you won't be disappointed.
Anyway, we went through...
We asked Brian Driggs, who is our guest this week. Quick synopsis. He's a Montero owner who lives in Arizona.
Yep.
We asked him for a quick 10-minute history of his automotive life. We're going to ask for that again, Brian, but we're going to ask for like a 5-minute history.
Okay.
So
I can do that because
let's start from scratch.
Yeah. So let's.
All right.
That was the dry run, and now.
Yeah. Good job, Brian. Let's take that from the top.
All right. I could do that. And we are recording this time,
It's
correct?
Definitely the counter is running.
Yeah, and from now on, I'm going to look at the little red button to make sure Andrew pushed it. Hey, listen, 37 episodes in, that's the first time you forgot to hit the record button.
Yeah, I promise. That's never happened before.
Yeah.
It's been one of those weeks.
That's what they all say, Brian.
That's right. Okay, let's see. I could do a 5-minute history. Let's see. Starting car-wise, first car I had, 1988 Pontiac Grand Prix, the W body, and I will refer to that as the W2F body, and that would be because I got the impression that General Motors said, hey, it's good enough. Let's let the buyer find all the bugs in it, and it was a complete disaster. Charging system never worked right, brake system never worked right, and I ended up selling it to the son of a small Kansas town mayor, and I never saw it again.
Excellent.
So,
I like the WTF body, but I'd call it the F body, because the F body would have been the Camaro Firebird.
Yeah.
So somebody bought that car brand new. They really wanted the Firebird, but they got the Grand Prix instead.
Yeah, it would have been nice to have got the turbocharged version. I had the base model one.
You say that, but with all the problems the base model car had, can you imagine what the added complexity of a turbo would have done to that car?
True. I know the top of the line, my neighbor back in the day when I had one, he had his in the dealership for, I think, 2 months because something was wrong. It was back one of those early computers that tells you, like, if the doors are open or there's a light burned out. They had some sort of really fancy onboard data system. And when that thing died, apparently he said that they had to pull all of the wire harness out of the car for it. And so I remember him saying that, be glad you don't have that because my car has been in the dealership for 2 months while they're trying to figure out what's wrong with it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I sold mine. And like I said, I sold it to a sucker. And maybe that's the karma that followed me all these years.
Maybe,
anyway,
but now that you've admitted it, the curse is broken.
That's right.
Yes.
So from now on,
that's
you're
true.
good.
So, yeah, I walked into a Jeep Eagle dealership in Wichita, Kansas, the weekend after Labor Day, 1996, with my mom. I was, I don't know, I think just a year out of high school, and I was going to order a 97 Jeep TJ with a hard top, full doors, and whatever options I had to get those two. And there was a white base model Eagle Talon on the showroom floor, base model being the non-turbo Chrysler 420A powered variant with hubcaps, manual windows, no radio, and no package shelf over the stuff in the back. I drove that car off the lot with 7 miles on the odometer, 4 of which were my test drive, and I finally sold that thing 14 years later with 214,000 miles on it. Never had any problems with it that weren't caused by me. And that's the car that basically taught me everything I know about working on cars. Built motor top to bottom, race head, cams, valves, titanium bits, forged custom 10-5-to-1 pistons, balanced to 10K, had a mega squirt ready to go in, and then realized I had an all-motor drag car that I had never put on a dyno, and I'd never drag raced, and I never really gave a shit about doing either of those things. So I decided to go full bore and go after rally, and that is when I bought my first Galant VR4, 195 of 2000 for anyone who's tracking badge numbers. Mm-hmm. That car has since been that car was totaled after I had it. Somebody ran a red light, and I T-boned them and totaled the Galant out, bought it back, fixed it, started to put a cage in it, and our friend Josh at Adventure Driven Design, he and another buddy of mine, Keith, are in the process of finishing 195 to become a rally car.
Oh, that's cool. That's the car, huh?
Yeah.
Right.
It's fully caged up on a lift in the shop, fully caged. It's going to get all sorts of go-fast bits. And then I bought a second Galant VR4, which I bought a license plate for that was spares because it was going to be my spares kit. Because I couldn't bear the thought of stuffing such a sweet car and not having another one. So I bought another one. And then somebody rear-ended me because he was texting and driving. And that one was totaled out, and I fought the insurance, and I kept that one. And then I finally sold that one. And the last I heard, it belongs to a soldier in South Carolina, and he has it caged, and he's in the process of getting ready to go rally race that. So
cool.
Every Galant VR4 I touch turns into a rally car.
Don't touch mine.
Or mine.
Yeah. After the Galants, I bought an 89 Dodge Raider, which was the most fun and any vehicle I ever had, even though it was the least comfortable, least powerful, slowest thing I ever owned. And then I sold that, and now I am daily driving a 98 Gen 2.5 Montero, which is currently partially stripped down in my driveway getting valve cover gaskets.
It's your automotive history is remarkably similar to Andrew's.
Yes.
Because you went Eagle Talon, Galant VR4, first gen Montero Raider, second and a half gen Montero Raider. That's like you and Andrew are right in lockstep right there.
Yeah, except for
Very cool.
Just add in the Evos and the STI, and that's about it.
Yeah, well, like a couple of other things in there, but I'm just saying, as far as old shitbox Mitsubishis go,
yep,
you guys have the same, which I'm halfway there because I went Talon, Starion, Galant VR4, first gen Raider, or first gen Raider Galant VR4, but I haven't stepped up to a second gen Montero yet. So.
Nope.
But yeah, you guys are very similar there.
All the cool kids are doing it.
Yeah, not me.
Yeah, and I think all the cool kids, I think if we all had the space and the time and the money, I think we would all have a wide-body Starion and a Galant VR4 and a 3000 GT VR4, whether or not it's the Spider or not, and a first-gen Montero and a second-gen Montero. It's like, and maybe one of the nicer Galants, and
some of us
definitely an old-school Colt.
Some of us wouldn't have a wide-bodied Starion.
Yeah.
We have a narrow Starion.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I prefer the narrow cars.
Interesting.
Yeah, I've had three or four wide bodies.
You had 3. They're all red.
No, there's one beige one.
Oh, yeah.
Yes,
I forgot about that
4
one.
then. Yeah. So I've had a number of wide bodies, and I currently have an 84, which is a flat side car, and I prefer it. The driving experience, to me, it's a much lighter, more tossable car. But that's just me.
Okay.
Some people just look at the wide body and go, it's just pure awesome looking, and I agree. But driving for driving, I like the narrow cars more.
So you were getting ready to go to MOD with that truck, but is it going to make it, or you're not going to take that truck now?
It's going to be we're going to roll. It's still up in the air. I don't know what's going on. It's a cylinder 3 misfire. It's not the plugs. It's not the wires. I've checked the coil. I haven't checked the transistor pack. I've replaced the valve cover gaskets. I've adjusted the TPS. I have no codes, and it's not a consistent misfire. Just soon as it happens at highway speed. It canceled a family camping trip last weekend, cruising up the highway, air conditioner below an ice cold, full blast, 75, fully loaded, cruise control on the hill. The road started to climb, and brrr, it turned into a Subaru, and I brought it home. So I'm hoping that it's just something stupid that didn't get bolted down tight. But yeah, tomorrow night, like tonight, I'm going to put it back together. Tomorrow night, I'm going to, tonight hopefully I'll drive it and it won't come back. And then tomorrow night, we'll probably load it up and start driving to California. And if it doesn't work, we'll rent a car.
Yeah, this is Mitsubishi Owners Day in Los Angeles, or it's Cypress, actually. That's where the headquarters are.
Yeah, it's all Los Angeles to me. Unless you live in that area, it's all Los Angeles.
Los Angeles Valley, I don't know what you call it.
Southern California. Yeah. LA area.
Yeah. Yes.
I'm excited to see the pictures of that 100-year-old Mitsubishi there, the 1970
That is going to be
Model
very
A.
cool.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm hoping that they did a good job with that, because we discussed, I think, on the podcast before our trepidations about the shop that was building it. So,
and there's a couple guys from Canada coming down, a bunch of other people from Arizona heading over, and we're talking about how many 4x4s, Mitsubishi 4x4s are going to be there.
Yeah.
I think I saw that the last text I saw from the local group, I think there might be, not counting 8 or 9, there might be a dozen Monteros there. And I know there's going to be Delica Space Gear.
Yep.
That's the more aerodynamic one. That's Phil's brother or Phil's neighbor is bringing that
friend
one.
Of Phil's driving down.
Yep.
We know Phil's driving down his Pajero Evo, which is an amazing vehicle.
Not legal yet in this country.
Yep.
But he gets to live in Canada, so he gets the 15-year rule in Canada.
He gets the grace period there.
Yep.
15 years.
Oh,
25,
sorry.
So,
Sorry.
Yeah. But it's really cold all the time, so we'll let that slide.
True. I heard a joke the other day. It said, "How do you get 100 rowdy Canadians to leave the bar?"
I don't know. How do you?
You say, "Will you please leave the bar?"
It's a very valid point. And all of my dealings with Canadians have been that way for sure. So we should always move to Canada and deal with the cold.
Yeah.
15-year import laws.
Is it Canada
Free
or
healthcare.
Canada?
Let's just go. Canada.
And let's not forget the Timbits, the Tim Hortons.
Oh, okay. I don't know much about Tim Hortons, but as New Englanders, we're pretty stuck on Dunkin' Donuts out here.
Yeah.
We got to get at Dunkin's, kid.
Yeah.
Hey, we got Dunkin's out here. We've also got In-N-Out, and everybody who knows In-N-Out knows what a double-double is.
Yep, I do too.
And a double-double, maybe I will catch some shit for this, but, given the choice between a double-double at In-N-Out or a double-double at Tim Hortons, I'm going to get the Tim Hortons.
You will catch shit from that from a lot of people. I don't think I've ever had a Tim Hortons, though, so I can't make that comparison. But I do know that whenever I'm on the West Coast, my first stop from the airport pretty much every time is In-N-Out. So
Yeah, it's maybe because we can't get it here. We just like it.
yeah, grass is always greener. I think he said
we
that.
get Five Guys, but that's about it.
Yeah, no, Five
We
Guys
don't
is
have
not
much
the
grass
same.
out here.
Yeah,
It's not the same. You're better off with what you get.
yeah, I think so.
But anyway, moving on. So that's a cool, quick little history of your automotive life, which is basically Andrew's automotive life, which is pretty funny. What's our topic tonight, Andrew? What are we talking to Brian about?
Well, it was more like, we help each other fix our cars, but we wanted to talk more about how we help, as car enthusiasts, how we help each other, like, improve their lives. either personally or job-wise.
Oh, this is a serious discussion tonight.
Yeah, a little serious, but it was pretty relevant to what was going on, at least with my job search. And then concurrently, Brian was looking for a job, too, at the same time.
Right.
So
I think that this is a good point where we can bring up Brian's personal blog, I guess. Is it a blog?
Sure.
What do you call it a blog? What's the vernacular we're using on this?
I think it's just a blog at this point.
All right. I don't want to shoot you down here and just call it the wrong thing. You know what I mean?
No worries. It's all good.
So what is your blog? Where can people find it? And what is the point of the blog?
Okay. So the blog is at worklifeparallel.com. It's a play on a phrase that everybody knows at this point of work-life balance. And I might almost say that this was all kind of inspired by the one and only Mark Bullitt, if you guys know him in the DSM community.
Can't say as I do.
I'm not sure if I do.
Probably should, but
Mark
sorry,
Bullitt
Mark,
is that's all right. Mark Bullitt, he's a good guy on Facebook. He has the fastest, most powerful all-motor 2GNT ever. That dude was running like 12 5-to-1 cams, custom ECU. I think he was running 12s all motor with a 2GNT. He's old school. He knows what he's doing and the head work and everything. Just a real all around good guy with a lot of old school history on cars. But once upon a time, I was in a crappy job situation. I graduated college and immediately went after the money and got a job that I didn't like. And I had said something. I was bitching and moaning on Facebook about life stinks or something like that. And Mark reminded me, he's like, hey, don't go chasing the money. Go chase what you love doing. And I started trying to do it. And it took me 10 years to figure it out. So that brings it back to the whole work-life parallel thing. If work-life balance, this is the way I see it, if work-life balance is separating, it's switching off when you leave work and going home and having that clean break to where what you do at work is not involved with what you do outside of work, and vice versa, to keep those distinctly separate, I think that's a bit of a ripoff. Because if there's 24 hours in the day and I sleep for 8, and most of us don't get 8 hours of sleep, that leaves me with 8 hours for work and 8 hours for everything else. And I think the point is that everybody should get to is your work what you do for a living needs to align with what you like to do. So for me, it started out, I started looking into, I wanted to use my college degree and do something automotive related, but I didn't want to work on cars and I didn't want to sell cars. So I ended up as a management trainee at Enterprise Rent-A-Car, which was basically washing cars, crappy base model fleet strippers out behind a shack in Mesa in a suit in Phoenix in the summer.
That sounds like a good move.
It was a good move away.
Yeah.
And then I started thinking about it, I like cars, but just because there's cars involved, that doesn't mean I have to cars. So I left there and ended up working at a little .com that no longer exists called Sport Compact Only. Sport Compact Only was a cool place back in the day. The guy who founded it, by the name of Roger, he and another guy that worked there actually sent people out to the Big Pavilion Car Show in Phoenix to ask me to come in to talk about DSMs because they'd seen what I was saying on forums and went in. Turned out it was a job interview. I didn't really want it at the time, but I ended up going back there, and I had a lot of fun selling body kits and cold air intakes. And then that company kind of went under, and I decided, well, maybe the thing I really like is the social media and the blogging and stuff like that. So I went to a small social network called IT Toolbox, and I developed a couple technical communities there, and didn't really like the way they went. Wow, it's weird. I should remember my own job history better. But yeah, long story short.
Long story short is you didn't like it, so you moved on. So
yeah.
you don't have to remember it.
And every time something else would come up, I'd reevaluate where I wanted to be. And at first, I just wanted to do something cars. And then I said, and to let you know, about the time I started doing the car thing, I started Gearbox magazine in 2009. And right after starting 2009 Gearbox, I went to Apollo Group, which is basically University of Phoenix. And I was on the team that built the employee manual and all the training materials for all their finance counselors. So when the finance counselors joined University of Phoenix Anywhere to coach people on their financial aid or GI Bill stuff, like all the training materials they used to do their job, my team was involved with building those and updating those. And it kind of came from like, oh, I like working on cars. I like playing with cars. I need to get something related to cars. Well, enterprise sucks. I'm not going to do that. Selling, parts for Harry, that's kind of cool. But, after a while, how many times can you talk to somebody in a day where they say, what's the least expensive body kit you've got for a 1984 Chevy Citation? Right. You just kind of want to hang up. And you get to the point where you're like, oh, I like this, but I don't really like just selling body kits and stuff. Like, I'd really like to be more performance-oriented or something. And then it's like, well, maybe I like the online thing. I'm really active on all these discussion forums. I'm a moderator on these ones. I'm an admin on this one. I've started that one. I've got my own car magazine now. Like, this is kind of cool. I'm really more interested in this side. I think the phrase I used at the time was, I really more enjoyed modifying car culture than modifying cars. Because there's always somebody faster. There's always somebody with deeper pockets. And there's always something broken. So it's kind of like it's more fun to, like, you can have a broke car. Like, knowing myself, my current situation, if I can't get this truck to run, I'm still going to go to MOD, and I'm still going to have a good time because I'm going to be riding shotgun in probably a Pajero Evolution, and I can hang out with a bunch of car guys and talk shop and commiserate, and it's going to be a blast.
Right.
So
exactly.
And actually, quick side note, I actually broke a car before MOD East one year and still went in a rental Corolla. Yes. So yeah. I feel you.
Yeah, like I've been to the shootout, I don't know, a dozen times since 2004, but I've never driven. I've never raced there. I love the French fries and ice cream and drinking beer at the Best Western, but who doesn't? So yeah, over the time, I got to the point where I found myself in this weird situation where I was doing all the online social media stuff, and I was talking to gearheads about cars, and I was talking to publishers about magazines and writing books and stuff, and other bloggers, and then I was also talking to a bunch of marketing people. Well, I started doing all that while I was working at University of Phoenix, and I'm building training materials and internal social networks, and then I ended up going and becoming a marketing manager for a fitness equipment retailer because I had all the experience. Somebody took a shot on me and said, hey, this guy's got a lot of stuff. He's got a lot of diverse background, but I was able to tie it all together. I'm the guy that's had forum moderator and forum admin and stuff on his resume for the better part of the last decade. And it was great because I was able to speak to people when I'd go to interviews. I was able to speak to the skills that you use in those roles to get jobs that were relevant to people that were interviewing me. And because it's something that you just do all the time, like, I'm not going to lie, there was a few times 15 years ago I got fired for, getting online at work and like, you need to get off those damn forums, stop using the internet. I'm like, well, it's more interesting than insurance. So, so that's kind of where the work-life parallel thing comes into is the idea that the stuff that you do outside of work, there's skills involved in it that you can apply to your professional life. And if you really care about it and you're really good at it, it's like if you've got 10 years experience troubleshooting complex mechanical machines, i.e. cars, and you've got 10 years experience collaborating with remote teams all across the world, i.e. using forums and social media, if you can get shit done that way, and you've got all those stories and all those anecdotes about times you've solved problems and dealt with trouble and figured things out together with people, like those are skills that those are in high demand. And, you can say, I didn't really have much experience with that on the job. But if you could say, well, yeah, I worked here for 2 years and I worked here for 2 years, but the 15 years in the background of that, I was doing all this and this and this online and it's all relevant, then all of a sudden you become like the top candidate, and it can be very, very helpful. And it's actually helped me get the last 3 jobs I've had. Actually.
That's interesting because that's something I've never thought about as far as, we spend all this time doing the things that we're passionate about and things that we love. As our relaxation from the workday, and not thinking about ever using that on a resume. That's an interesting point of contact. I can't imagine in some of the positions that I've held where it would have helped, but thinking back about it now, it's like maybe it would have helped me get another job somewhere else some other time, and that's not a bad thought. I like that actually a lot. I might have to update my resume.
Yes,
include auto off topic on it now.
Yeah,
You should.
I updated
and
mine.
That's the thing too. it's the trick is that you have to think about, like, you know what? Here's the metaphor that'll I think make it click a lot better. Like it doesn't matter what you drive, it doesn't matter what you do, car, truck, foreign, domestic. If you're on a forum somewhere, we've all seen the newbie that comes in and says, "Hey, I just bought X. What do I need to do to it? What should I do to it?" And you have all the people that jump in there like, "Oh, you need to rebuild it, forged internals, full standalone, GT35 RS." That's probably child's play these days. It's been a while since I give a shit.
Yeah, we're all out of it. It's okay.
Yeah, so like people go in all these details and nobody asks the most important question. What do you want to do with the car and how often do you use it that way? So like somebody that wants says like, "Hey, this is my daily driver while I'm going to school." And then says, "But I want 800 all-wheel horsepower, and I want to run 9s."
Yeah.
Like, okay, well, those two don't go very well together. Do you have $50,000 sitting in savings for incidentals that come up on a weekly basis? No. But so that's that first question. Is you have to look at, you almost have to treat your career like a project car. Like, what am I wanting to do with this? Like, you don't buy, well, some people do, but like you don't go out and buy like a 72 Colt because you want to run, you want to go drag racing hardcore. Most people who are buying that these days are buying those because it's a neat car, it's a classic car, it's fun, and it's going to take a shit ton of money to make that into something super duper fast, or you're going small block Chevy or something like that in it. But you think about why, yeah. Well, I know there's a lot of people in like Puerto Rico and stuff like that. They have those old school Colts and Lancers and stuff.
There's actually one over here. Up in the New Hampshire area with a 2J in it that runs like 8s.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, and back in the Gearbox days, I interviewed a dude, Anthony Apuzzo, I think is his name, Anthony Apuzzo Jr., and he does like race transmissions, and I think he had one that does that, like wheelie, front wheels off the ground,
it's like a yellow 72, right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, he's the New England guy.
Oh, okay, so, cool.
Yep. Yeah, that name sounds familiar.
But yeah, that's the thing is people don't look at that. Is we're programmed to think that when you're at work and you do work stuff. You think about everything outside of work after work. When you go home, that's when you can check your personal email. That's when you can, work on your car, play these other things. But the stuff that you do outside of work, when the two combine, it's like, there's like that 10,000 hour rule. They say like, well, it takes 10,000 hours to practice to master something.
Yeah, right.
Like if your work. Even if that, and I know that's kind of BS in some respects, but even then, if you look at it, it's like you could spend 8 hours a day getting better at work and 8 hours a day getting better at whatever it is you want to do for fun, be it play with cars, race, you could be driving practice or engine building or whatever you want to do. And those two paths are separate and maybe equal. But if you do work-life parallel where you can find a way that if the stuff that you're doing at work, if those skills that you're doing at work don't directly impact what you want to do for fun, then it turns into 16 hours a day, and you cut that time to mastery in half. Because now the stuff you do, like it's one thing for me to go, like the new job I'm going to be starting to do next week is customer success for a software as a service startup that it's for publishing. So I'm basically going in and I'm going to be helping people onboard and learn how to use software that I spent the last 8 months learning how to use myself. And it's all related to publishing, and it's super easy for me and intuitive for me to understand it and figure it out because I'm looking at it through the lens of, well, I did my own magazine for 6 years back in the day, and I can totally see how this would work. This is my editorial calendar. This is where my stories come from. This is where I'm going to find writers. These are the ideas that I can pull from. You could see all the big pieces because now, like Gearbox magazine, that was 6 years of basically blogging for most people because I never really made any money at it. I lost a shit ton of money on that. But the skills that I used that for, I was able to then spin that into what I did for work. So then even if I was at work, I may not have been working on Gearbox, but I would be working on writing, and I'd be working on publishing and social media and marketing and email and all that stuff. And those were skills that when I wasn't at work, I would go home and then apply to what I was doing for the blog, for the magazine. So that's the whole idea of parallels, aligning the two. And you just have to kind of start by reflecting on what is it that I'm really good at, for a car guy. Like, do you really enjoy building the engine, or would you rather have somebody else build the engine and you'd rather do the research into the parts and find the best prices on the parts and pull things down? Because there's every skill you use as an enthusiast to build a project car, all the research skills and the hands-on skills and the collaboration, every one of those skills, whatever it is you enjoy most, if you really think about it in terms that business people understand or hiring decision makers understand, if you can put the one thing into the terms that the other understands, you speak two languages, it's incredible how helpful it can be. Because then you get those questions like, tell me about a time when you had to deal with an angry customer. Like, you don't even sweat about it. Like, okay, so there was the time I made the joke on the forum to the one dude, and I said, well, like, your mom does blah, 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 and his mom turned out to be dead, and he was going to show up and beat me up, and, you know, we had to diffuse the whole situation. And everybody has a laugh, but you don't skip a beat. You just go right into it. It's like, ask me whatever question you want. I might talk about cars. I might talk about work. It's all the same.
You know, what's funny, though, is that, you know, it's always been ingrained in me, and I don't know how common this is, but it was always ingrained in me growing up that the exact opposite almost of what you're saying was that everybody always told me, don't go into a career doing something that you like doing outside of work. Everybody told me to, you know, stay away from cars as your career. If you have cars as a passion and you love working on cars and being around cars, if you start working on cars as a career, you're going to loathe and hate cars. So that was something
I've heard that too.
Yeah, that was something I had to deal with, and I've you know, working in the car industry, I've met a lot of mechanics who say, "Oh, I hate cars; they're the worst thing ever, and I don't want to do them anymore." But you know, I think that is something that is kind of ingrained in a lot of people growing up and learning, you know, skills and learning how to do different things. And you know, my father was in the automotive industry, and he wanted nothing in the automotive industry for me. He wanted me to be as far from it as possible. Obviously, he failed miserably because that's all I've ever known and done. But I think that attitude is a lot more prevalent than what you're saying now, and unfortunately, and I've always kind of gone along with it. And you know, it's kind of why I never went into being a professional mechanic or a professional body man or any of those things, because everybody told me not to.
No, I agree with that. I heard that a lot. But then
I've heard that too.
You know, working in that sort of industry, maybe we're meeting people that just went into it for money. They just needed a job.
Well, and I'm sure they are, and I'm sure anybody who became a mechanic must have had some interest in cars. And if it wasn't a true passion, by the time they finished working on, you know, brand new Corollas every day, they're like, I hate cars.
Yeah.
Whereas if you can do something, you know, we're into old Mitsubishis. If we could find a way to work on old Mitsubishis every day and make money with it, wonderful. Here we go. But it's hard to strike a balance between work and play and not. I've always had a hard time combining the two. Basically, what I'm saying. And you know, Brian, what you're saying seems a little more obtuse about it, where it's not like you go to work all day working on cars and you go home all day working on cars. You're kind of combining things a little more fluidly, I guess, a little more crossover than exactly the same.
Yeah, the skills that you're learning working on cars, being around cars,
use them towards other things.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So that's an interesting point, and it's hard to bring those two things separate, because, like I said, I've always thought work is work, home is home, and never the two shall meet.
Right. Something that you just touched on when you talked about the people that work on cars professionally and just hate them after the fact, I think it's probably worth mentioning. There are some people out there, and you guys probably know a couple of them just like I do. I think we all do. We all know somebody who is a professional mechanic. They work at Mitsubishi or they work at Toyota or wherever they work. They're professional dealership mechanics. And they also, when they get off work, after hours, they're turning wrenches, they're helping friends with work on their cars, they're taking side jobs to work on cars, and they still love playing with cars. And I think those kind of guys, those people who do that, I mean, that's truly a special kind of gearhead, and I always have the utmost respect for that kind of person.
Oh yeah, that definitely exists.
You know,
yeah, your father.
You know, yeah, like if you can go all day and work in a hot or cold, you know, shop and deal with the least common denominator, the lazy, unmaintained, I don't care, they just beat the crap out of it, there's really no, don't figure it out, just rip it out and replace it, whatever it is. You know, if you could deal with all those headaches all day, every day, and then go home, eat dinner, and go out to the garage and work on your friend's car or work on your own car, that's a special kind of person, and those people get a lot of respect from me.
Yeah, that's a true dedicated enthusiast, obviously, at that point. But
yeah,
even those people, though, unfortunately, if you work in the industry, I don't know if you've ever worked, in a dealership itself, but the problem is that, negative energy breeds negative energy. And
yes.
when you're in a shop like that, and you're in a situation like that, if 90% of the guys that are in there are like, F cars, this sucks, I hate my life, then that guy who's passionate is going to lose some of that passion working there too. And that's kind of one of the reasons I've always, I've tried to stay away from dealerships as employment. I know there's a lot of other reasons too, but that's one of them because, I'd go in there, as a passionate gearhead and, everybody just craps on it all day long. And how could you like cars? And how could you waste this time? And what do you mean you want to bring a car in and wash it at lunchtime? Don't you want to stop thinking about cars and eat lunch? Let's go out back and talk about the female customers out front. It's like, whoa, guys, come on! I just want to work on my car. Yeah. Stop being a creep and let me do my thing. But it was just it's always been hard for me to kind of I don't care what other people think, but at the same time, that negative energy you can't get away from it sometimes.
Yeah. There's nobody you should have. You shouldn't have that in your life. I mean, that's just.
But that's just what I've dealt with in every single, automotive employment place, be it a body shop, be it a dealership, be it parts somewhere. I mean, it's always been that, hey, you like old cars? You're weird. Get the hell out of here.
See, now that you're changed, now you guys have Auto Off Topic. Grow this into the gigantic gearhead media empire.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, our heads aren't too big yet, Brian. Keep it going. Yeah, no, we have no delusions that this is going to make us a lot of money. Absolutely not. But we'd love it if it did, obviously. But one thing at a time. We still have to work our day jobs.
No, it's just fun to do it and to talk to people, and that again is a skill.
Oh no, this definitely develops communication skills beyond anything, and that's why I just mentioned adding it to the resume, and you said you added it to your resume. Actually, at Brian's suggestion last week, which is what sparked this episode, was your Facebook rant about jobs and finding work and whatnot.
And just like this helps with public speaking.
Yeah, 100%.
All kinds of stuff.
Yeah. So speaking of the job thing, I did mention to a couple of people. I said that I wasn't going to share the details of my recent job change story. I was going to share the story with you guys first before I actually blogged about it.
Hey, look at that.
To put this in perspective, this work-life parallel thing that I've been going after, like I said, it's going to be something car-related. No, it's going to be car sales, performance-related. No, now it's going to be social media-related. No, I like the training and the online development. All the way up till now, I'm doing marketing and publishing based on Gearbox. So what happened was I went in for my 90-day review in the middle of my 8th month. Is 8 as in 6, 7, 8th month, and came to find out that I was being let go because my position was being terminated, and they were going to go 1099. They were going to contract out some of their content creation stuff. And they'd spent a number of months trying to figure out where they were going to put me, and then they couldn't put me anywhere, so they had to let me go. That was like 2 o'clock in the afternoon on Tuesday. I sent my goodbye email to everybody in the company, walked out the door. By the time I got home, the first person, and these are people that I worked with at the company or were vendors or partners of the company, before I got home, which was less than an hour's drive, the first person that I was planning on calling the next morning had already sent me an email and said, let me know what your hourly rate is and how many hours a week you want to do. I've got all the work I'll give you all the work you need. And that would have been freelance blogging, writing stuff on the side. Like, I hadn't even got home yet, and I basically had a job offer. Dinner that night. I'm sitting at dinner that night, and the CEO, who had just a few hours previously told me he had to let me go because he didn't have a place for me anymore, emails me a job link with a partner company and says, this seems like this would be right up your alley. If you're interested, let me know, and I'll put in a referral direct to the CEO of the other company. And I looked at it, and it was like, wow, that is exactly like if you took all the jobs I've done in the last 10 years and you took the best parts of them and you made one job out of it, that would be it. And I said, absolutely. And as late as like 8 o'clock that night, I'm watching two CEOs email back and forth talking about, A, how qualified I am for this job, B, how excited they are to talk to me because they know how well I've worked with their software for the last 8 months. I had a phone interview 2 days later I had a 2-hour like group interview with like multiple people the following week. I'm in the interview. I'm meeting people at this interview on site, and everybody's like, "Oh, I've heard so much about you. Oh, it's nice to finally meet you." People are taking pictures of people in the room interviewing me. Like the head developer is in the room with me, and he turns his laptop around and showed me that somebody walked by and took a picture of us through the glass window and that Brian Driggs is in the building. Like people knew me there, and it was like I seriously, it's like I had that interview, and then the following week, like the CEO, he's like, "I'm going on vacation. I won't be able to do the interview on Friday. Can you come in Thursday?" So I went in Thursday and met with him. I went back Friday morning, and like Friday afternoon, I had a job offer. Like Excellent. Literally, I didn't have to look at all. And the whole time I was at this place interviewing, like every time I walked through the door, like I think if Michael Jordan walked through the door, he probably would have got a little bit more attention than I did. But like I felt like a celebrity, and all I did was just talk about how I like to blog and publish magazines and do social media and marketing and the work-life parallel thing. And they're just like, yes, 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 yes. We were actually trying to figure out how we were going to steal you away all this time. So it just that's I've never had that happen before. Never in my life have I been let go. Like, sorry, we got to lay you off. But hey, let me talk to my CEO buddy. I think you'd be a perfect fit for this job. You should go talk to him. Oh yeah, we'd love to have him. Send him our way.
Congratulations for sure. Congratulations for sure. That's awesome. Can you share with us where it is yet or not yet?
Yeah, I am going. Well, I left the company I had been working at is a marketing automation agency in Scottsdale called LeadMD. That was probably one of the coolest places I've ever worked. Everybody there, it's one of those places where you work and everybody really loves what they do and they're really good at it. And the new place that I'm going to is called ClearVoice. And ClearVoice is a startup software application basically for publishers, any big business that's doing regular content marketing. So they're running numbers or podcast production stuff is in there. It's a pretty neat piece of software, and I will be helping people. Basically, I will be helping people like me who care about the same sort of stuff I do the stuff that we all want to do better and easier using the software that I already know how to use. Excellent. It's just like all the pieces came together. I was just like, wow. So yeah. I start next week Wednesday.
Excellent. What is it publishing for? Is it for magazines, for online, for print, for?
Predominantly these days it's online, but I could totally see it as for magazines. That's kind of the lens I originally took it to. So if you could picture, like, if you got like a calendar and you could put down on any day you're doing on, like, say you got a blog post that's scheduled for your business to run on Wednesday, like a week. So you can have it on your calendar for Wednesday, and then you can go in and you can actually write the blog post in this system. You can put the pictures in it, you can put all the links in it, all the formatting in the blog post right in there. You can have conversations with people and chat with people, and you can attach files to it for reference. You can attach links outside for reference. Everybody can collaborate, discuss it. There's versioning. And then when everything is finalized and ready to go, it's automatic. It's already connected to your website, WordPress or whatever. You can actually publish from there, and it goes out to your website.
Excellent.
You can do everything you need to do in there. And they've got little icons and tags. So some people do blog posts, and sometimes there's white paper or research or presentation documentation, or they'll do sometimes we had podcasts. We would coordinate podcasts. When I was at LeadMD, we would coordinate all our content there. So if I had a podcast that was going live, I would have to write up a little announcement blog post for it, get a couple links in it, you know, who's a guest, a little bit about them, their bios, and I would build that right there in the site. It's not the sort of thing that I would say, you know, you or I would use for ourselves. You know, as much as the work-life parallel thing comes great, yeah, I would totally use it, but I think if I remember right, it starts at like $400 a month, which is a bit out of reach for your average blogger. You got to be pretty serious about your content marketing stuff to do it. But it's really exciting that it's big brands. It's talking to companies and helping people do stuff that I really care about.
It's also opening doors for the future. If it's that kind of you know, big money is going to be, you know, big companies and, you know, maybe some lots of good connections for you there. It sounds like too.
Lots of connections and growth opportunities, and it's just one of the things. Like, I'm excited because it's you get to that point where, like, And you can get that's the goal, really. The goal, I think, for anybody is like, wouldn't it be nice if you can get up in the morning, your alarm clock goes off, and you wake up, and your first thought is like, "Oh, I'm excited." You know, it's like you know that feeling you get when you're off and you're getting ready to go on a like you're gonna go to the race, like the car show. It's like you wake up and you're like, oh, I'm a little tired. Like, oh wait, I got cool stuff to do today, and you just jump out of bed and get dressed, get loaded, to hop in the car, and then the car won't start, and then that kind of harshes the whole buzz.
Yeah. Yes.
But you know that's the goal, and I think for me that's the thing. Is like yeah, the benefits are great, the pay's great, and there's opportunities to grow, and I'm going to talk to a lot of really cool people in a very targeted niche industry that I'm very interested in. But at the end of the day, I'm going to spend my days helping people do what I love doing, what they love doing, and it's the work. The work itself is what's appealing to me. So I'm pretty lucky in that regard. But I have spent the last 10 years. My wife Vanessa has been very, very patient and very, very supportive in my career job hopping adventures these last decades.
That seems to be a common thread amongst most car enthusiasts.
Yes,
is
it does.
A very patient wife sitting at home while we do our ridiculous car stuff.
Right?
You know, my wife drives a 20-year-old car and doesn't say anything about it too often. So I can attest to that same fact.
But I mean, that brings up the point of connections, and we've gotten certain places because of the people we know through automobiles, whether it be
absolutely
for automobile stuff or something totally unrelated. Something that they do professionally. I always tell, or I've told Stephanie, this. She always wants to go to every event, and sometimes she can't. But when I am at an event, I am networking with people, meeting people.
Yeah, it's always pushing.
And not even just pushing my own stuff, just generally just making friends with people and car people. You just end up knowing, it just kind of spirals.
Everybody.
Yeah.
Well, that's like I was just saying before we started recording that I just came from the local, Wednesday night cruising that we have here. And I was a little late getting to the podcast recording tonight because I was standing there talking to my father and some of his older, car guy friends who aren't really familiar with the whole podcasting, internet stuff, and explaining to them what we're doing. And, we're going to have at least 12 new listeners because they're all psyched,
Yeah.
We'll probably have new guests and new stories from, back in the 60s coming up soon, hopefully. But so
that's going to be cool.
Yeah, there's always going to be connections and people, and as part of, I hate to say that we're the younger crowd because we're not the younger crowd anymore. I mean, I'm not exactly sure how old you are, Brian, but I think you're 2 or 3 years older than I am based on the story you just told.
I turned 40 this past April. I'm the big 40.
Okay, so you're 4 years older than I am because I'm 36. So I don't think that we're the young crowd anymore, but for a long time we were the young crowd, and making those connections with the older crowd is how I've kept myself employed over the years, because almost every job I've ever had has been at a car-related place and been through, hey, my buddy in the car industry has a job here, or my friend's father's shop needs somebody to write appraisals, or there's always been that connection going all the way back to the beginning. So,
yeah, and when you do talk to people like that, I think what I personally would be very interested in hearing from them is how they built those relationships. Like, we have, even our generation, Generation X or whatever, with coming up with the internet, like, it's crazy to think that, I know more Mitsubishi Galant owners in Germany than I know people on my block where I live.
That's a valid point.
Yes.
Because we had that technology. Like, how did they do it? I mean, they always got together. Like, where did they go to the street races, or did they do Wrench Fest days, or they all got together?
Well, I think a big part of that too is that the world was a bigger place, and your social circles were a lot smaller. Obviously, that's why you had people in the United States would build hot rods and Camaros and Firebirds and Corvettes and Mustangs, because they didn't have access to the greater knowledge of everything.
And then you'd have car clubs, though.
Yeah, you'd have local car clubs that specialized in those Camaros and Firebirds, and restoring 55, 6, and 7 Chevys, and because it was like a local hive mind of all of that stuff, and you didn't have this whole worldwide web of enthusiasts to meet.
I mean, that's why you get organizations like the BMW Car Club of America started, because BMW owners needed a place to
meet other BMW owners.
And then they had a newsletter, and that's all pre-internet stuff. And that's how the SCCA was launched originally, was owners of British cars wanted to get together in the early days. They didn't know, people didn't know how to work on them.
Because there would only be one guy with a British car on the block.
Yeah, exactly.
There wouldn't be a bunch of them together.
So you wanted to meet other people. You created these clubs, and then you wanted to compete, so you created races, and that's how that organization is like 60 years old now.
What it is now, yeah.
So it all comes from that, I guess. But then I guess how this podcast started, well, this particular episode was spawned, was because I kind of crowdsourced it on Facebook. I was trying to figure out how to get better results from using like job search boards and LinkedIn and stuff like that, because I wasn't getting a lot of hits on my resume and stuff. And basically it was like you were kind of like, well, you got to treat it more like if you're going to go on LinkedIn, you need to make connections with people. There are people on there that you know, know you, and know what you do or what have done in the past, and you need to put all those skills on there. And it was like, oh, I get it now. I've been using it wrong.
Right. You've been using it basically as like a monster.com and sharing your resume.
Yes.
Not making the connections with people.
Yes.
So, and we all know monster.com is not really the most useful place anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, to parallel that back over to old school forum jargon, use the search, noob.
Yeah.
What are you looking for? Find the job, find the company, find the people. I have a headhunter friend up in Wisconsin, and he gave me a piece of advice last fall when I was looking for a job, and it reminded me, and it stuck with me. He said, why should you wait for somebody else to do their job to get yours? Because there's so many people out there. The technology is just so wild. Like there was even an article I read in the last couple of months about a dude who built a bunch of bots and did automation, and he was applying for tens of thousands of jobs online. And the response rate was no better than if he had just applied for like dozens of jobs manually himself. You go to the website, upload your resume, and then you upload the resume, and then you have to re-enter all the information on the resume.
Yeah, it's super annoying.
And you do that so that a system can filter out and not even show you to somebody who's potentially hiring, because you don't have that one, fancy keyword that they were looking for.
Yeah, exactly.
Somebody who works in HR who has no experience selling car parts or logistics or, human resource, they have obviously human resources if they work in HR. But I mean, somebody in HR who's filtering through resumes, who has never worked in your industry, has no experience in the role, and basically has probably an outline, like an email with a couple bullet points that they're trying to base their decisions on. That's the first step. That's what stands between you and the job. Whereas if you get out on LinkedIn, you say, hey, I want to work for this Mitsubishi dealership in town because they got a great reputation. Yeah. My Mitsubishi dealership here, they don't have any Mitsubishis parked out on the front street. It's all used cars. They've got a bunch of Mirages out back.
Yeah, it sounds like ours.
But yeah, you want to work for a company, you find a specific company you want to work for, and you know what department or what aspect of the company you would work for. You look up that company on LinkedIn and you start browsing the people who work there, and you find people who work in that department. And maybe you connect with them. Maybe they're in groups, and you find the groups that they're in. You read the blog posts and the articles that they share on LinkedIn. You start to, just like on a forum, you just kind of treat it like a forum. I'm interested in what these people have to say about this topic. And they'll see, because you get that little email from LinkedIn. If anybody who's on LinkedIn knows, you get that email that says 3 people looked at your profile, and you can go and see who they are, and then you go look at theirs. And, so they know that you looked, and maybe they'll check you out because they're curious. But that's where you start to make your inroads. Then you find them, and you're in the same group on LinkedIn. You're talking about some topic, and they say something, they share an article, and you comment on the article, and they're like, oh, wow, this person who up until just now I had no idea even existed has the same opinion I do about the same topic. And look at that. They've got a pretty relevant background. Boom, connection,
Which is the way Facebook works, and it's the way we know you.
Yep. Well,
Exactly.
forums
So it works.
first. It was like
Yeah.
forums, then Facebook, and then...
Well, it's funny because I can think back to 2010, 2011 when I was first, corresponding with you, Brian, because you wanted to do an article on one of my cars for Gearbox magazine. It never came to fruition, but I remember going back and forth with you for a while about, what I have and, my car histories and all that stuff. So, here it is 7 years later, and we're sitting down. Well, not sitting down with you, but sitting down with you, talking on a podcast. Totally different format of media, but it's
Exactly.
the networking is there. I probably could search those. I could probably search those emails up, and we could have a laugh about them now. But
And you sure you guys aren't going to go to Norwalk next month? You sure you can't make it to Ohio? I mean, I don't know, from the Midwest to the East Coast. I mean, how long is that drive for you guys?
It's
know,
not-
there's DSMs there. Somebody's going to need to ride back to the East Coast with a dead DSM. There's going to be a dead Mitsubishi that needs a ride.
it's not the distance. It's not the anything else other than the fact that it's my daughter's birthday weekend.
And then it's only like a month before my wedding, so I don't... what the timeline's going to be like at that point.
Yeah, somebody needs to tell them to change the DSM shootout because it always falls on my daughter's birthday weekend. So maybe I can get away with it when she's in her mid-20s, but she'll be 14 this year, and she certainly, would not ever forgive me if I went to a car show on her birthday weekend.
Yeah. Eventually
right,
we'll get
right.
there.
I get away with a lot. I do get away with a lot, but I'm not going to get away with going away from my 14-year-old daughter's birthday. So I'm sure you can understand. You're a father yourself, so...
Oh, totally. And I have the same reason. It's the same reason why, as long as I have known Kurt, I will butcher his last name, Gendron.
Yes.
The All Mitsu
Yep.
Cookout
All Mitsu
dude.
Cookout, yep.
I would love to check out the Cookout. And that dude is the master, man. He shows up on every Mitsubishi forum. You get the emails. He's on Facebook. He puts on an awesome event. I've never been because it's hard for me to say, well, I'm going to fly from Phoenix. I'm going to go to the All Mitsu Cookout. And then, 2 weeks later, I'm going to fly all the way back out there and go to the shootout. That's a whole lot of drinking beer in parking lots. And that's just...
Yeah. Well, one of these years, one of those events will be on a weekend where we can all make it out there because Mr. Gendron invites me, personally every single year. And, I really, really want to go because the pictures from that event are pretty ridiculous.
Yeah.
And there's never any old Colts there. And I kind of, I'd love to get out there with one of the Colts or the Sapporo or something different from what's always there. And, I haven't made it out there yet. And I wish the country was smaller sometimes. Sometimes I wish we lived in England and everything was really close in one day's drive.
Well, eventually we'll get back to the Prescott Rally in Arizona at some point. That'd be a fun time.
Oh, yeah. I think the chances of us being out in Arizona are better than the chances of us being in Ohio anytime soon.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. So, although we do have other friends in Ohio, too, that, have invited us out for different things. And we even have a house we've been invited to stay at if we do go to the shootout.
I know.
Cost-free, pretty much. Just bring beer and have a good time. So, well, I don't know. We'll see what happens. One of these years it'll be the weekend before the 20th weekend, and I'll be able to go.
We'll see. So I am starting a new job, so I don't want to take any time off. So that's the other reason.
Well, eventually you'll be able to take some time
Eventually,
off.
yeah. I don't want to though because it'll be literally just starting. So
Yeah. Well, and it's a car enthusiast place.
yes.
So maybe they'll be a little lenient towards you taking some time off for car enthusiast things, especially if you bring some advertising and promotional material
Maybe.
to these
We'll see.
particular events. So we won't talk too much about that job yet. We'll wait for that to wait for the right time for there. But congratulations, Andrew, on that. Do you want to say anything about that yet, or are we gonna?
Well, I mean, we can kind of go in. I had 2 jobs ago was a job I really, really liked, and it combined a lot of my outside of work skills with cars with work skills. So it was very parallel, I guess.
Work-life parallel.
Yeah, exactly.
I've
So
heard that somewhere before.
Yeah, I got to work on cars, write about cars. I was always interested in book publishing, and I went to school for English professional writing, so that was really cool. It was a really neat job, but it just kind of dried up. So I took a fallback position, which I had always worked at dealerships before that in parts departments and some other stuff around dealerships. And if you ever worked in a dealership, it's not the greatest place, usually. It depends on, I guess, the owner of the dealership, who owns it, how it's run. But for the most part, they're typically not great because it's always profits first. Profits, which, I understand a business, you want to make money, but there's got to be. It goes a long way to give something to your employees, and like this year, I worked on Memorial Day for whatever reason they were open.
Which was very frustrating.
They just thought that I had to work the Saturday, then I had the Sunday off, then we had to work Monday. So I was like, okay. They thought for some reason that Jiffy Lube was going to steal oil changes away from them or something.
Your 1 day Memorial Day weekend.
Yeah. So, whatever. That's just the way dealerships are. It's a retail job, basically.
They're dollar first, employee second.
Yeah.
Or third.
And then it was just, the other thing too, it's just very boring for me to I'm really good at parts department stuff, but that means it's just mentally boring for me. It's not challenging at all. Just sit there bored most of the day because whatever, I can look up stuff really fast, and then you get it for the technician, and it's it. You're just moving parts around. And then the other thing too, it's like everybody. There's always something to argue about. Somebody wants to argue with you about something. And you're like, why? I don't want to argue with people. I just want to go to work and just get my job done. And be left, and then everybody wants you for a task immediately. It didn't matter if you're doing before they showed up. Just because I'm sitting here behind the computer doesn't mean I'm not busy. You can't just interrupt me, but whatever.
Right.
But regardless, after being at dealerships for so many years, it's just kind of soured on it. So
yeah, as we talked about earlier in the show,
yeah.
I was like, no, dealerships are bad. And people that work there, that it's that negative energy that
exactly.
Just it brings you down. You can't do it. You need to be on your own somehow.
So regardless, now I've got another job lined up that matches with a lot of skills that I have in marketing, in writing, in mechanic skills, and it's even in the photography and video work stuff that I've done.
Right.
So it's pretty neat that it lines up that well.
Yeah, we'll talk a little bit.
And we met this person through car stuff that I ended up being the connection for the job. So it's pretty interesting.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's very cool. And it's also good because it's going to bring you a lot of experience with, video production and putting these things together.
Yeah, it's going to really further what I already know.
It'll further what you already know, and it'll further what, we're doing here with Auto Off Topic, too, because we talked about doing videos and all this different stuff, and it will certainly help your professional career, will help your personal life, and again, to go back to Brian's thing, work-life parallel.
Yeah, and it is, I didn't, for a long time, I didn't see the value in what I was doing playing with cars, so to speak, but now, in the last, month or so, I started to kind of realize it when I went to work for the publishing company, and then specifically when you commented on my Facebook post, it was like, oh, yeah, dummy, that, all the stuff you do outside of work, that counts as skills. Even though you're doing them for free, that counts as skills. I always tell people, even when I'm doing photography at an event, I'm at a rally, I'm shooting motorsports photography, I may not be getting paid. Maybe nobody buys these photos, but I have them all, and I can show them to people that I know how to handle a camera, and I can take pictures, and it has helped me get other jobs. It definitely helped me get my last job because part of it was photography. So
right,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
So this has been a good life lesson episode.
Yeah,
I'm glad you've been on, Brian, because I'm going to go home and think about some things in my personal life and my work life, I should say, because I'm not satisfied.
No, but this podcast was started as twofold. It was one to talk about cars, and two as marketing for Vine. So
right. Well, yeah, because that's I started. Brian, I'm sure you're familiar. About a year ago, a little over a year ago, I started my own company, and I'm not too proud to admit that it's been a hard start because money. So
as are most small companies.
Yeah. So it's I've taken a job doing something else, and it's taken, unfortunately, a lot of my time away from my marketing and whatnot with the Vintage Imports position and job. And it's been some challenges in my life and keeping it all together and trying to make a career out of that. But this is going to be, I'm going to go home and I'm going to re-up my LinkedIn profile, I think. And I'm going to make some more connections because this is definitely a bit of an eye-opener, I think.
Yep. So,
well, cool. I'm glad to hear it. And I would just say for both of you guys, like, obviously this isn't a marketing podcast, but if you got questions or if there's something I can help you with, I'm more than happy to connect with you guys offline and to chat about automation and ways to make your life easier.
Yeah. Well, I think we need to talk too, because we've talked about doing some blog stuff and an Auto Off Topic blog too. Have we not, Andrew?
I own the domain.
Yeah.
I need to set it up.
We need to set that up, and we could certainly talk to you, Brian, about some help there.
I do want to get some stickers before the end of the summer.
I was thinking
feel
about
bad
that.
when I run into people, I don't have anything to give them.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. I ran into a guy on the way here, actually.
Yeah.
It was a couple minutes later because I saw a guy pull into the gas station at the end of your street.
Yeah.
And he was driving a silver Civic, like CX, like a notchback, like the same body style as your 2000 SI.
Yeah.
And I did a quick second glance at it as I was sitting at the stoplight because it had steel wheels, but then I realized it was on slicks.
Huh.
And then I looked inside, and I saw him crawling out around a cage.
Ah.
And it was a bone stock-looking Civic from the street. So, and he got out, and he was wearing a shirt and tie.
Cool.
And so I pulled into the gas station, and I started talking to the guy. I was like, hey, what do you do with this thing? This is the coolest sleeper I've seen around here in a while because it's a bone stock-looking Civic. And he's like, well, I didn't build it as a sleeper. I do, HDPEs and track days and HPDEs and track days and autocross and on all these events. He goes, and my daily car is broken, so I'm just driving it to work. So when I was talking to him for a couple of minutes, and I was like, man, I wish I had a card or a sticker for the podcast to give him because obviously he's local because he's at the gas station at the end of your street. And this would be a cool guy to have on and talk about his race cars.
Yeah, exactly.
So
yeah, we're going to work on that.
We do need some stickers.
So anyway, Brian.
That dude up at the next HPDE guy. It's HPDE, High Performance Driving. Yeah,
High Performance Driving
event. Yeah, you should go check out the event. Look for the Silver Civic.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. And I was driving my 78 Colt, so I was in a pretty obvious car. I'm sure I'll remember it.
So, Brian, thanks for coming on. Bearing with me my miscalculation with what we were recording earlier.
Yeah, 20 minutes of lost time.
Sorry.
The lost archives of Brian Driggs will never come back, unfortunately.
That's hey, it was a good conversation that we had between the three of us. So.
Yes, those jokes will never be repeated, unfortunately.
Anyway, do you want to? Is there anywhere people can follow you online?
Well, I've got the worklifeparallel.com website. It's basically that. I'm on Facebook. I do the Instagram thing currently as The Life Aligned. And that's basically it these days. I do some Twitter stuff, but that's all automated. Nobody really uses Twitter anymore. It's all robots.
Just the president.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so robots and illiterate people. I'm sorry. Let's not politicize the.
Yeah,
we won't politicize the podcast, but I think we've made these comments before. I think everybody knows our opinion there, so we don't delve into it. We just lightly graze over it.
It's low hanging fruit.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, Brad, the podcast is, as always, brought to you by
Vintage Imports of New England. As we discussed a little earlier in the podcast, my business I started about a year ago, vintageimportsne.com, which actually is another thing that, going quickly back to the topic, that website was helped and been developed by a automotive friend, one of our closest friends now, that we met through the internet and cars. So that's, he helped develop my website. Well, I shouldn't say he helped develop my website. He developed my website from scratch.
We helped him fix his car, and he helped you build the website.
Exactly. So, and not only that, but my logo was designed by another automotive friend.
That's right.
So everything is kind of goes hand in hand.
Car guy who's a graphic artist.
Yep. Everything goes hand in hand. So thank you, Jordan and Jim. But yeah, vintageimportsne.com, Vintage Imports of New England on Facebook and on Instagram, and my personal Instagram of TSISS350.
Yes, not Tissa 350.
Not Tissis 350, no, TSISS 350. I have to figure out how to change that without changing my identity on there. Like, how to change it, but keep it so people know it's me.
You'd have to come up with another name. You can just change Instagram names really easily.
No, I know it's easy to change the name. I'm just trying to think of how to change it, but keep my identity. And I don't know. It's all part of marketing.
Anyway, you can find the podcast on Facebook, Auto Off Topic Podcast. You can follow it on Instagram, Auto Off Topic. You can email us at autoofftopic@gmail.com. Questions, complaints, just to say hi if you want. What else? You can follow me on Instagram, Raced in Anger. You can also search for us on Facebook if you like. Again, thank you to Beeline Coffee for sending us a couple bags of coffee. We'll enjoy those over the next couple weeks.
Absolutely. And as we said before, they're social media is at Beeline Coffee.
Yep.
And their website is www.beelinecoffee.com.
Yep.
And as always, their slogan is amazing.
Yes.
And I'm a little jealous of it again. The word jealousy, I keep coming back to that tonight. Drink coffee, build things, have fun.
Yes. All right. Well, keep your cars analog.